In 23, the overall ELT, English language test globally, was a 6 million market. 60% thumb rule basis of these 6 million tests would be for academic purposes, and 40% of them would be for immigration purposes. Right. TOEFL largely plays on the academic side. That said, in countries like Australia, TOEFL is also accepted for immigration. So what we say is that TOEFL, you can study, work, settle. You can do anything with TOEFL in Australia. And that's what we're working for some of the other markets now.
Hi, good evening. So welcome to another episode of Living Pod by Saurabh. I'm founder and CEO of University Living, which is a global student housing for managed marketplace. And today I have another very prominent guest who I consider as a mentor, which I learn from, especially lots of things which is, see, in this industry, there are 18 touch points which can be monetized. I am an expert for post-admission, housing as a core, but there is admission, there is a very important category which is pre-admission, and what I'm talking is English text. ETL, English test language, is a industry, and we have players like, I'll talk about them, but it's a multi-billion dollar industry, and we have players which are global, and one of them is TOEFL, or I would say GRE, and I'll talk what is GRE, what is TOEFL, and who owns this. ETS. Yes, today we have the country manager for South Asia, Mr. Sachin Jain. I call him Sachin Bhai, so I'll stick with Sachin Bhai, if that's okay.
Absolutely, Saurabh
And I'm not in a position to introduce him, so I'll ask him to do all the, all the milestones, your like experiences, your journey in ETS and in life. Over to you.
Thank you, Saurabh bhai, for having me here. It's a privilege and honor, and it's a I would say a journey of learning, which is mutual. I learn a lot from how you kind of built University Living. So I think it's a mutual journey and mutual interesting aspects that kind of makes all of us successful in what we are doing. I belong to a business family, born brought up in Delhi, studied in Delhi. I'm a chartered accountant by profession, though I never was designed to be a chartered accountant. I always wanted to be an engineer, but destiny had different plans for me. So I became a chartered accountant, was in the finance field till about 2010, before kind of diversifying into other areas. So post my stint with Voltas and General Electric across multiple countries, then I moved into M&A with Ernst & Young, where I was leading financial due diligence across multiple sectors in transactions across IT, telecom, education services. And that's where my baptism into education started. Those were I would say, the stepping stone of understanding education as an enterprise, as a business. And post E&Y, I, like Saurabh, started a venture, though kind of not as successful as Saurabh is. So I call myself a failed entrepreneur. I started a venture with a friend of mine. We made a lot of money, but we lost more than that. But more important was the learnings. I think if I had spent 2 years in an MBA program, I would not have been the kind of learnings that I got as a professional. What that 2-year stint gave me was immense. And post that, I think one thing led to the other. And I've been working in education space for now close to 15 years. I started with Educom as the M&A head, then moved to Laureate Education, worked across university space, was with Bennett University, which is part of Times of India Group, set that up as the president for the university. I was with Arizona State and a global higher education startup for some time before moving to ETS 2 years back. And I think my intent of joining ETS were twofold. One is that I have not done the international higher education side. It was more on Indian education, be it in the K-12 space or higher ed space. And two, I think the growing, I would say, aspiration of Indian students to have an international higher education experience along with, say, an undergrad degree from an Indian institution. So I think that is a trend that I'm only seeing to grow, not just from India, from entire South Asia, because the aspirations are more or less similar. And what I have realized in my career is two things. One is education, and good education is the biggest economic lever.
Never.
That's the biggest force multiplier for 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 I would say students coming from humble backgrounds
So
like me.
I call it leveler. You know,
Yeah, I
that's
call it
what
a
leveler.
multiplier because it is because of that education that I'm here, what I'm doing, right? So that's number one. And I think the second important element is learnings. So while I have done multiple roles, what has also helped me is this: be a continuous learner. So from finance to projects to marketing to running a business, I think that entire evolution has happened over a period of time by also being an avid learner, that what it takes to kind of understand a specific domain, a specific stream, etc. So I think those to me would be the two key elements that I would say as a high point in my career, and why kind of what I am today is because of that education and a continuous learning kind of a streak that I was able to manage.
See, I was loving to listen to you, and I like these kind of discussion wherein I ask one question, I'm listening, I'm learning, right? But allow me to interrupt a bit and also understand. We talk about ETS, and there are lots of audience, So my audience is school going, 11th, 12th, undergrad, postgrad, international student, alumni, market entries, ICRs, education partners. So it's a very varied audience. So many of them knows ETS, but what is ETS?
Great question. So ETS is Education Testing Services. ETS is the world's largest and oldest assessment organization. We started in the same year when India got its independence. So 1947 is when ETS was born in Princeton, US. And from that day, for the last 77 years, ETS has by far been the largest and most credible assessment organization globally. More than ETS, I think it is the assessments that ETS has created, which ETS is known for. The two most popular ones globally, one is TOEFL, Test of English as a Foreign Language. That's what it stands for. And second is GRE, Graduate Record Examination. TOEFL is by far the most widely accepted English language assessment test for any student who is aspiring to study in an internationally in an English-speaking country or an English-taught program. So for that, you require a test to assess your English language competency. This can be across undergraduate, graduate, postgraduate programs. So any program that you want to do internationally in an Anglophone country, as we call it, which is a native English speaking country, and a lot of non-native English countries are also developed English taught programs. So for that, you need an English language competency assessment. TOEFL is the oldest. So coincidentally, this year we are celebrating 60 years of TOEFL. No other test is even half the age of TOEFL. TOEFL is accepted by 13,000 universities across 160 countries. All the major aspirational countries where students from India, from this part of the world, want to study, be it US, UK, Australia, Canada, France, Germany, you name it. TOEFL is accepted across every such country by every university. So that's TOEFL for you. If I were to just go slightly deeper, TOEFL tests 4 competencies of English: speaking, listening, reading, and writing. It's on a scale of 120 score, and it can be done in a test center environment or home based. in less than 2 hours. It is the shortest test available. In one sitting, you can complete TOEFL at home or at a test center. That's TOEFL for you. Coming to GRE, GRE, as I said, Graduate Record Examination, is required if you are applying to a graduate, postgraduate, or a postdoc program in US and other parts of the world. So this is not required for undergraduate programs. What is interesting is students from India, 75 to 80% of them actually apply for a graduate or a postgraduate program. Indian students prefer to do their undergrad in India and then they go abroad for their graduate and postgraduate studies. And GRE is accepted by far every university in US and a lot of universities outside of US for admissions into these graduate, postgraduate programs. So TOEFL and GRE combined makes a very competent and a very kind of a standard assessment for universities to admit students from other parts of the world, international students, for these programs.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Just to also add, GRE GRE is again more than 80 years old. But very interesting to note that in 22-23, for the first time in the history of GRE, India overtook US as the largest test taker base for GRE. So interestingly, now there are more GRE test takers in India than US.
See, this is the theme. This is the theme, and this is where then we all keep saying that India wanna supersede China. We've been listening for the last 30 years, right? But I believe this is that time. This is an inflection point wherein it's actually happening. It's been 14 years, 15 years I'm into this space. I have not seen Indian be number one in UK for global mobility. Indian be number one for US. Indian be number for Canada for a while, right? So now India has been superseding and crossing and overtaking our neighbors, and even not only quantity but the quality of students from India. And that's where all the universities and everyone wants to be in India, recruiting Indian talent, offering scholarships, even hiring. There are so many VCs and like vice chancellors in universities which are from Indian origin. So Indian mind is being getting recognized, right? But coming back to it, you talk about ETS. Let me take a back step. You say that ETS is a 77 years old organization or a young organization. You want to take a minute and talk more about ETL as a segment. Of course we have we have ETS, we have IELTS, we have PTE, we have Duolingo, right? And every test is good, and it's a big market, right? And you guys are one of the market leaders, right? It would be great to understand a bit more from this segment. And let's say if anyone want to start a language center, or anyone want to choose a language center, on what basis? And before that, if we can talk about the market a bit.
Sure. So this is something that based upon all the research reports, etc. This is not per se ETS data. So that's a disclaimer I would make. But in 23, the overall ELT, English language test globally, was a 6 million market, give or take 5%. But that's the number that we have seen.
6 million
tests globally, right? One differentiation, and if I were to now start peeling this onion, 60% thumb rule basis of these 6 million tests would be for academic purposes. What I mean by academic purposes, for admissions to universities, and 40% of them would be for immigration purposes, right? So that's the broad split between academic and immigration. TOEFL largely plays on the academic side. That said, in countries like Australia, TOEFL is also accepted for immigration. So what we say is that TOEFL, you can study, work, settle. You can do anything with TOEFL in Australia. And that's what we are working for some of the other markets now. So that's a broad landscape.
But how come it been accepted in Australia and not in other countries? Or
It is on a government to government basis. For example, for every test needs to go through that approval process. So now we are approved for academic purposes. We need to apply to be approved for immigration purposes.
So you are approved in for academic as well immigration in Australia.
Yes, for others,
you are
academic.
approved for academic and you are going that path.
US is the only market that doesn't require an English language test, which is enshrined in their visa policies. Because US is one of the few countries where you have to appear in front of a visa counselor to get your US visa. A lot of other countries have a remote kind of a process. So they believe in actually having a conversation meeting to assess your English language competency. So there's no such requirement of an English language test from a US immigration standpoint or a US study visa standpoint. But lot of other countries have an approval process, and that's what we are going through. So very soon we should be approved in few other large countries for immigration purposes as well. So, but that's the global landscape. India happens to be one of the largest
Out of
markets.
6 million, what percentage?
I would say 1/3 would be India. And what I would also share with you is that this is 23. For what all the things that have happened in 24, we believe there's a contraction in the market because 6 million is also at the peak of this
older market.
Of the market wherein the entry barriers were low. Lot of student flows were happening
post-COVID
effect, absolutely. So we believe there is a 15-20% contraction in the overall demand as we speak for 24 and 25 for this year and for next year. Hopefully things will start getting back into the growth trajectory from 26 onwards. But at least my personal belief, and this is my personal kind of belief, that the next 6 to 12 months are going to be soft. And I don't see a big challenge there. I consider this as something called cleaning the kitchen.
So what do I call it? I'm interrupting. What do I call it? It's a blessing in disguise.
It's a blessing.
So University Living, it's been 8 years. Overall, it's been 14 years in this space. Every year we are spending 30-50%. And every year we say, okay, this year we take a breather and we'll consolidate. But every year there's growth. Now it's a blessing in disguise that overall market is slow. That means we are getting, as an industry also, we are getting opportunity to clean your kitchen. Over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's a moment of reflection for not just for the countries which have kind of amped and increased the barriers to entry, or they have figured out that what kind of student is required. So I think another element that I want to just highlight is, while I talk about a contraction in the market, there is no contraction whatsoever for a good student. That is what I say to everyone, and I say that
define
with
good
confidence.
Student? Define good student.
And before defining a good student, I will say what is not somebody who's required or is welcomed in these markets, right?
Someone who's great value.
Yeah. So essentially what has happened is, post-COVID there was a dire need for labor. As a result, every country was welcoming any kind of student. And a lot of these students were not actually going there to study. This we call as a disguised immigration. They were actually going to work, going to a country to work, but they were going through a study visa route. That's what countries have understood, realized that that's doing more harm than good to their economies, because the wage rates have crashed. There's a lot more of socio-economic unrest in their countries, etc.
Pressure on the resources, housing.
Yeah. So, but the demand for a good student, and what I mean by good student, a good student can turn into a skilled or a highly skilled kind of a talent
asset for them,
or workforce, right? That demand is not going anywhere. We were talking even before this interview, Saurabh, in terms of the demand for highly skilled workforce in tech, in healthcare, in other such domains, right? That is not going anywhere, because except for India, a lot of these markets are aging more than at a much faster rate. So from where would they get these this highly skilled workforce? From markets like India. So and that's how I link a good student. A good student is a student who is going to a good, decent university, doing a program, a graduate, undergraduate, postgraduate program, which is in the high priority occupation list of that country, that student, the acceptance of such student is not going anywhere. Not today, not tomorrow, not even the foreseeable future. And I say that with a conviction because I was looking at some reports. So the industry reports talk about an overall market size of international students increasing from 6 million, which is currently, to around 9 million by end of this decade, right? And 40-45% of these students would be coming only from China and India, where interestingly, to your point, earlier China was 60% and India was 40% of that. Now China and India would be roughly contributing 2 million students each to the overall 9 million. So 4 million of this 9 million will be coming only from China and India. But these are good students. So that's what I say. And before this conversation, we were meeting with UBC, University of British Columbia, and the head of admission said that two things. Number one, our Indian students, students who are doing master programs, there are no caps, there are no restrictions whatsoever. Number one. Number two, the graduation rate is 100%. The employment rate is 100%. There is no dearth of job opportunities for them. He said, while we may be, and he said, this is the message that I want to give, that Canada is welcoming and kind of open to anybody who wants to be part of a good program, good university, because there is no shortage of opportunities for this.
In fact, I was in Vancouver, and I went to Canada for the first time, and I have a family friend who is studying on UBC. So I met her, a very bright undergrad student. I'm like, there's no jobs, come back to India. And I was there for 7 days, She met me for 30 minutes because she's doing part-time. She's preparing for a postgrad and she's interning with a professor in UBC, So as Sachin, you are saying that there's no doubt of opportunity for good student, but that good student, we need to, I'm a big voucher of, if you're going abroad, be very clear. Are you going for immigration or education? If you're going for education, every year, in fact, the year which are slow are great, because you have less competition, you have more opportunities, there will be less pressure on resources like housing, air tickets and everything, So, and being a businessman, I always say, mande mein dhanda banta hai, right? Similarly, ऐसे slow या contraction या, consolidation phase में is the phase wherein anyone who's been looking to go abroad, there will be scholarships, there will be more opportunities and less competition. So more the reason to take this opportunity rather than going by the herd, going by those medias wherein Canada में लोग जाना बंद हो गए, कोई बंद नहीं हुआ है. 4.5 lakh, 4,35,000 students are provisioned now. I was talking to a couple of universities. 4,35,000 students have provision.
Absolutely.
That means they have provision for their jobs, their housing and everything.
Absolutely.
Same, I was traveling to Australia, right? The tour with Australia. The quality of students, and even another trend I've seen, more undergrad students are keen to go to Australia, than postgrad. That means students spending $200,000 or 2 crores for undergrad because they see ROI and they see, value in that, right? So always say that stop just going by the herd. Just stop. I'm not saying that, everything is hunky-dory.
Yeah.
There are slowness in the market. There is a consolidation phase. There are lots of uncertainties in US, Australia, Canada. But for those people who were trying to go with the tailwinds, who were looking for shortcuts, then the right reasons. What do you say?
Absolutely. No. So what I say is that the diploma market in Canada, the wet market in Australia, that's gone. And you will not see that coming back again very soon. Right? That's gone. Governments have realized that that's not the kind of student that they want in their countries.
Yeah.
But if you are going to a university doing
what is the diploma market and wet market for the audience?
So so it's not, so you have multiple layers of these education providers in Canada and in Australia. I'm just giving as an example. So there are these designated learning institutions that do not offer a undergrad degree, but it's a diploma, 2-year diploma. right? It's not a degree. And these are more like, in Indian context, what we say is affiliated programs, or in Australia, what we call as technical and vocational education programs, TVET programs, right? Now, those are the kind of programs where the biggest restrictions or caps have come.
Mm.
And which also gives a very clear indication that governments do not want to kind of extend and increase the student base in those countries, especially from international markets, because where they are looking for is in highly innovation, knowledge-driven industries, because that's what is driving growth in each of these markets. It's innovation, it's technology, it's science, it's management that's driving growth in these markets. And those are the kind of programs and universities where students are more than welcome.
Yeah. You mentioned caps. Let's address elephant in the room. And I mean, the beauty about part of university living and me being me, because I'm not into education. I'm not an educator. I'm not into admission, right? So I can say all things unpolitically correct, right? So I was touring with Australia, right? And everyone talking about there are caps in Australia. The market is very slow. Everyone's sitting idle. That's not the case. Because we met lots of good students. You were representing. Your ETS was there, right? And undertone is that there are no caps happening. No one have announced it, but unofficially, it has been conveyed that there are no caps happening because the opposition also oppose caps to the current government. There is an election in the corner, so there will be no announcement. But if you see there are no caps, yes, the narrative has been said. Sentiments in Australia is being down, due to which probably Feb, March as a intake is a slow intake, but July is gonna be bumper year. So what I would recommend, anyone looking to go to Australia, they're very clear for Australia, and if they can still apply for Feb, March, because July is going to be very competitive, so don't miss that chance. But there are no caps happening, and even the caps in Canada, 435,000 students. That's lots of students, So if you see, as you mentioned, only for diploma and VET and ELICOS market, these caps are majorly for.
Yep, absolutely. No, absolutely. And just to add to that, so you're right. In Australia, there are no caps. There was a bill that was tabled in the Australian Parliament, which proposed caps for 2025, which has been deferred. So technically, there are no caps in Australia in 2025. And but at the same time, what I would always recommend a student or an aspirant is to do their research, which they are very good at these days, right? And I have met probably hundreds of students during our events across India, and they are evolved. They are kind of far brighter, far more sorted. You guys are far more sorted than what I was probably
for sure
30 years back.
I mean,
right?
Let's not compare that. Let's not compare that.
They know different. What is happening in each country. They know the policies on their fingers, right? This is the issue in Australia. This is what I'm hearing in Canada. This is what I've done the research. These are 3 programs in Canada. These are 2 programs in Australia that excite me. This is the professor. That kind of is why I want to join this program. And I was like, what the hell? You guys kind of have got to the extent of who is teaching that program, and that's how you decided. So very interesting insight. So for most of them, the program, the university matters the most. And when we ask them that, what about, and then this is from a student perspective. I'm not talking, and there's a dichotomy also. There's I would say a diametrically opposite view if you ask the agents or business partners. But students, the way they kind of research is program, university, followed by country, right? Followed by post-study work. And when we ask the question, how do you react to this changing policy landscape? Most of them said that they don't really matter to us. Don't matter to us, because the degree, the education that I'm taking is not for a year, 2 years. This is something that's going to be there for me for my entire life. The things may not be, or regulations may not be conducive today, but they will come back tomorrow. So I don't see that to be a big challenge, because I have I have a longish view to this, not just that immediately after the graduation I need to get a job in that country.
So refreshing to hear.
So, and this is a global mindset. So I think that's the student mindset, which is longish, which is not really ROI driven immediately. Which was refreshing for us also. That said, if we go to the parents, now obviously parents, partners, they have a different point of view, and very, very important. So when we asked parents and partners in terms of what matters to them the most, obviously for them, and hands down, Saurabh bhai, what I want to share with you is one thing came out very clearly is outcomes. And everybody said outcomes matter the most. I said, please define outcomes for us. What do you mean by outcomes? And this is the most interesting kind of revelation that I got in my conversations. They said, in today's world and in today's environment, right, getting a student visa has become even more profound and more important than getting an admission offer. He says there are so many cases, and parents talked about their network, that there are so many cases they got admission offer from a great university, but they never could get the visa. And that's where, and this is anecdotal, this is not something that we track or we have the data, but they said what we have realized is with tests like TOEFL and GRE, right, because even visa counselors are scouting for those good students, a score actually represents the genuineness of the student who wants to pursue an academic program. And that is what drives a higher visa success rate. And this is what agents are telling us.
But this is also, in a way, let's say someone have messed up in their 12th or their undergrad, right? I mean, so we have a scholarship, living scholarship at UM, and the premises. I'm sorry, I'm basically disrupting you a bit. The premises was, what if anyone have, due to some reason, they've been able to do well in 12th or in their third year, right? Do that student don't have an opportunity to go abroad and fulfill their dreams. With that premises it came, but what you are talking, and it makes so much sense.
It connects to the same thing.
It makes so much sense, but at the same time, because of some bad actors, who tried to abuse the system. Because earlier score was not that important, especially when they are going abroad. Because especially in US, they all talk about profiling. They all talk about what all they have done beyond academics. But I understand, because there are some bad actors who are trying to abuse those profilings and SOPs and whatnot. Very interesting.
So I think what is happening is now.
Very interesting.
What we are hearing is that parents, even visa counselors, even market partners, etc. For them, the outcome is that we need to focus also on the visa along with the application, because this is becoming, and I think there was an ICEF study which was done. 44% of the agent partners gave first prominence to study visa, even before you talk about cost of living or post-study work. So they said, because if you do not get the visa, it's like multiplied by 0. The entire effort goes down the drain.
We don't blame them also, because their interest and their overall rewards are attached to visas. So even if they want to genuinely counsel a student, at the end of the day, outcome matters for them as well for students. And even if I want to go to a best university, but I don't get a visa, it's wasted of a year for them also.
Exactly. So outcomes, the definition of outcomes has changed. Earlier it was like, how do I go to my dream university? Great. And why this is becoming important, if we again try to figure out the reason, and you used the word profiling, right? This is all about data science and data intelligence. Now, the visa officer at an embassy has got so much of data today, okay, regarding the university where you got an admission offer, right? Regarding the students from your state who are going to that university, right?
Dropping out.
What has been the outcome of that university in terms of graduate outcomes? They have every data, and they are very easy for them to connect the dots to say, because you are coming from this region, you are going to that region, only to this university, right? Where I know the graduation rates are bad. So there is something else which is
Wow.
driving this decision of yours to
Wow.
join this university only. Why? And hence, I am not comfortable giving you the visa.
Wow.
And they have all this data now.
The businessman in me is talking about creating a product via AI, telling the education partner that, okay, this is a predictable score, using this data point, telling the students that, see, you're coming from this city, going to this university and applying for this course, and on this basis, so many rejection happen, or, amazing.
And
Continue, please.
actually, AI is working.
Yeah.
And we don't see that, but there cannot be anything else.
Anything else? Yeah.
There cannot be anything else.
Yeah.
And government is the kind of the biggest kind of
Yeah.
depositor of data.
Yeah.
So hence, that's where what I always say is that do your research. A model from you will be good, but at a student level,
Yeah.
I should be able to do that research
Absolutely.
myself. What is the credibility of
In
that?
fact, so I'm not in admission, right? Sorry, I'm plugging
Yeah.
myself. We're not in admission, right? We don't want to. But still, we launched Study About Buddy for international education with the same thought that if they go to a education partner, even they are good, they have some vested interest to promote a particular country or a city or a university. Similarly, if a student, let's say, study a particular blog, from a particular website or a particular destination official website, they will be biased for that country or right. So we thought, if someone can do this kind of thing, is someone like us, which are not in admission, and we have no vested interest, whether you're going to US or you Canada, we can do it, right? That's where we created a Study About Buddy for international education, and that's an AI, and it came really well. But allow me to ask a couple of questions,
Sure,
right? Because just for my audience, so generally I sit 3 to 4 hours to record this.
You have to say this.
Of course,
Come on,
I
cut
will.
this,
Of
cut
course,
this.
no, it will go live. It's so candid, right? There are no scripts, whatever question my
Nothing.
team decide, I will never ask that, But coming back to it, and on a serious note, so you've been representing ETS for last 2 years, right? And I believe you just completed a leg of events which you were calling some Star Awards.
TOEFL
right?
Star Awards.
What was that all about? And because previous to this discussion we were talking about it, there are few things which fancy my interest, wherein there are lots of business partners meets, there are lots of education fairs, right? But the way you have pull that events, there was something refreshing and something very insightful. So you want to put a light on that?
Sure, absolutely. So this is the first time in India we did what we call as TOEFL Star Awards. And who is the biggest star in this entire ecosystem? It is the student.
Students, always.
Who is the biggest kind of luminary who helps the student shine? It is the trainer. It is the counselor, right? And then we are all part of that ecosystem to really enable that journey for that student. So the entire thought process of devising this TOEFL Star Awards, and we did that pan India across 5 cities over a period of 1 month, was to reward and recognize first and foremost these exemplary performers, student performers, who did really well on TOEFL, were able to get a good admission in a university of their choice. And by the way, with TOEFL, kind of its statistics, data that kind of proves that, again, coming back to that outcome thing, that 90% of the students believe that they get to their choice 1 or choice 2 university by taking TOEFL. So that's the first layer of recognition that we did across India. And there were students who scored 120 out of 120 on TOEFL.
Is that possible?
It is possible. It is possible. And there are students who actually scored 120 out of 100.
आपने दिया कभी? Try किया आपने?
मैंने नहीं दिया.
मैं तो सोच के भी घबरा रहा हूँ कि यार
नहीं, मेरा appraisal खराब हो जाएगा.
perception ये है कि परसेप्शन मेरी
आपका तो अप्रेजल होता नहीं, आपका तो छवि खराब होगी, मेरा तो अप्रेजल खराब हो जाएगा अगर my boss.
आप अप्रेजल देने वाले हो, कहने वाले नहीं हो, कंट्री हेड हो आप, बट आई एम थिंकिंग बिकॉज ये परसेप्शन है, एंड इट माइट बी परसेप्शन, माइट बी ट्रू, दैट TOEFL GRE is tougher than others.
Great question.
ये परसेप्शन है कि ये मतलब बनाया गया है, पोजीशनिंग ऐसी है कि एक्चुअल है?
नहीं. And this is a great segue to the second layer of our awards, which was for trainers. But thank you for asking us, Saurabh bhai. That's
स्क्रिप्ट नहीं था,
बहुत timing बहुत perfect
बिकॉज
थी.
स्क्रिप्ट नहीं था.
Timing बहुत perfect थी. So देखिए, what I always say is that if I don't know how to drive a car, driving a car is always difficult. After driving the car for 25 years, we drive it subconsciously. We don't even look at the road. While that's not the right way to do that.
Not
but,
even look the roads, and also always a mobile. So let's skip that.
That's not. So ETS, being the largest and the oldest assessment organization, we always felt that will there be a conflict in our philosophy if, as an assessment provider, we also provide test prep, right? And hence, over the last several decades, we never invested in test prep. However, that hypothesis has changed, wherein as a team, as an organization, we feel that you need to be well prepared and well kind of well equipped to take that test, because the stakes are so high.
Right.
And over the last few years, we have started investing a lot in test prep. So there are two parts of this test prep. One is the content, mock test, etc., and the second is a trainer, like a coaching institute or a English language trainer who kind of helps you prepare for this test. So we are working on both sides of this ecosystem, bringing in lot more content, lot more mock test into the market. We have the first AI-powered personalized test prep platform called TOEFL Test Ready. It's a freemium platform. You just need to register. It will start giving you personalized suggestions on what you need to work on a daily basis. Forget weeks. On a daily task will come to you as a notification that, hey, Sachin, you have to do this. Why? Because what we have done is it asks you, okay, fine. What is your aspiration score? Aspiration score. How many weeks of test prep or preparation that you need? And which of the 4 competencies which you believe are the 2 most difficult? These are the 3 questions it asks. And then the AI engine starts curating and suggesting content to you that this is what you need to do. And that's how it starts mapping your journey over your period of test prep. So that is one. Along with that, in India, we launched what we call as a TOEFL Beginner's Guide, free of cost. Anybody who wants to understand ELT, forget TOEFL, can take a TOEFL Beginner's Guide free of cost. No questions asked. Whether you take TOEFL, whether you take any other test, we don't care. It doesn't matter to us. What's mattered to us is you should be well aware of what an English language test really represents. And there are 3 or 4 such more content which are in the pipeline as we speak, which will hit Indian market and South Asia market in the next, I would say, 2 to 3 months. So that's one. But we said last mile connectivity in some of the markets which are regional, right? I'm not talking about Delhi. Delhi students are very well versed because the schools, they have a culture,
Right.
the family backgrounds are such. But the moment you move out of Delhi, 50 kilometers outside of Delhi, I won't say even 100, the landscape changes tremendously. If you move to Kurukshetra,
I'm a perfect example.
Meerut, right? 50 kilometers, right? It changes. Now, Meerut has come up, but then there are pockets within Meerut where there's an aspiration, but you need more of hand-holding. And there we said that unless and until our trainers are confident, they cannot pass on that confidence to the students. It is a simple ecosystem approach, right? And that's where we gave a challenge to our trainers, TOEFL trainers, open challenge, and it was an open challenge that anybody can take a TOEFL test at a test center who is a TOEFL certified trainer, right? If you score 85 out of 120, we will give entire test fee back to you. If you score 110 or above, we'll give you another reward of 10,000 rupees. You won't believe, Saurabh bhai, in just 2 months, 200 trainers across India signed up, paid money from their pocket. And they said, we are ready to accept the challenge. 75% of them actually got the money back. And 30% of them actually got a 10,000 rupee reward. And we asked all of them, do you still believe, to Saurabh bhai's point, TOEFL is difficult? This, who said that?
अभी भी है 10,000 रुपए?
हाँ?
अभी भी है.
So we are.
मैं दे सकता हूँ अभी.
आप लेकिन आप पहले TOEFL ट्रेनर नहीं हो ना.
पैसे इन्वेस्टमेंट के बिन तो रिटर्न आएगा ही नहीं.
तो आपको पहले TOEFL ट्रेनर बनना पड़ेगा, उसके बाद आपके लिए ओपन है.
अभी तो फिर मैं स्टूडेंट को एक्सपर्ट बना रहा हूँ सबको. तो ट्रेनिंग में बाद में होगा.
So but to your point, and we recognized all such trainers across India, probably 70 or 80 of them across India, in terms of, and same question we asked to all of them. Some said that I was overconfident, I didn't prepare. Had I prepared, instead of 106, I would have got 110. I missed 10,000 rupees. So there were all sorts of stories, but the common theme was that after taking the test, I am 100 times more confident that TOEFL is not difficult. Number one, TOEFL is more structured, because see, one of the basic premise with TOEFL is you don't need any rectification. It is inference based. It is situation based. It doesn't require you to use any specific words, syntax or language. Be your own. That's what we say. And we will take care of the rest, because we understand those local country nuances, mother tongue influences, because we are not a completely AI driven test.
Situations, right?
See, AI is good, but AI has to be used consciously.
Tech without common sense or tech without human is waste.
Great point. And what I would say is that TOEFL is the only test that use both AI and human raters. Because we said AI has to be done with conscious, taking into account those mother tongue influences. We are not testing whether he has crammed and he has used those words to impress me, whether he's actually understood English and whether he or she can be successful in a conversation in a foreign university, in a foreign classroom, the way anybody else could. That's our basic premise, and which costs us a lot. But for us as a mission-driven organization, what matters is the validity and fairness of the test. And that's where I go back to this outcomes discussion. The moment a counselor sees a TOEFL score, the fairness and validity of that score is represented when a student speaks to that counselor, speaks to that admission officer, because there's a very high correlation between the score and what you are exhibiting in that real time.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I also heard about SAT. So what is GRE? GRE understand now, right? Graduate Record Examination. What is SAT?
SAT is Scholastic Aptitude Test. This is not a ETS
Not
product.
ETS,
It's not. And it's largely for undergraduate admissions.
And this is by
College Board. So College Board is.
So GRE and SAT are in the same.
GRE is for graduate, postgraduate. SAT is
for undergrad.
Besides SAT, there is ACT also, which is also in the same space as.
But do we ETS got anything in undergrad segment like a SAT or ACT?
So we are working on it.
Okay.
And you will very.
See, I'm giving you all the cues, right? Now my check should be good.
Yeah. So yes, that's already underway. We are working on an undergraduate product. The shape form will be kind of is still in the works, but yes, we are working on one.
No, for anyone who has spent like 20 minutes understanding, it has to be a common that if there's GRE, what is synonymous to for undergrad market? Okay, great. How much time we have, sir? I can go like another 2 hours.
I would love to go for another 3 hours with you, but
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
No, but thank you so much. It's a weekday. It's a Wednesday, and Delhi traffic is in Delhi. Traffic. Though I'm in Noida, there's no traffic in Noida. But from people coming from Delhi to Noida, they get traffic. But last couple of segments. One, let's talk about ETS, and then we'll talk about there are some rapid fire. I want to know you as a I'm very, very privileged, that I can mix business and relationship, because like fortunate to be blessed and supported by people like you, wherein whether we work or no, our relationships, is beyond just transactional.
Absolutely. That's true.
So, what are the some trends, which you have been observing in students when they prepare for global opportunities, particularly in language and skill development, and couple this up in this scenario wherein every government need a student who will create value, who need a certain skill or or some value which those countries are looking, with that scenario, how one student should prepare, think, plan in next 1 year or 3 years, because as we all know, right, the next 2 years are great years for good student, not that great year for probably immigrant bound education.
That's gone. At least for the foreseeable future, you won't see that.
I don't agree to that, because sorry, my Indian in me is talking, wherein where the labor gonna come? If everyone's aging, they need people.
But that's also skilled workforce. There's a difference. Now, skilling could be in agriculture, skilling could be in healthcare, skilling could be in plumbing.
Right.
I may need more of those.
Or probably those students need to understand that, okay, probably a plumber is not needed in UK, but it's still needed in Portugal. Probably.
Right, but the mindset is that do we need more people to work on gas stations? Do we need more people to work as cab drivers?
Especially with AI coming in, with autonomous
vehicles
cars coming in. Yeah.
So
that's
I
a very
think,
good point.
So what I say is that skilled workforce will be required, right? We need to identify what are those skills. You don't want to study a four-year degree program, a 3 that's fine. There are enough and more opportunities even for skilled workforce, but skilling has to go beyond the traditional mindset of working at a gas station or working in a
store,
in a store or as a cab driver. No, I think that's gone. That's not going to come back. There are enough and more hands and legs for that.
And machine is, technology is challenging any which ways.
Absolutely.
Probably in 5 years down the line, we might not be talking. Our avatars will be talking. I'm dead sure about it. Our avatars will be talking to each other. And we must be chilling in some beach or mountains.
I doubt.
I'm 100% sure. And now it's on records, right? We'll see. But yeah, coming back to the question on a serious note, how the student, apart from skills, how they go about their English language test, how they go about even planning their finances.
So I think the students today are far more evolved. What I said, they do a lot more research, both in their peer network, in their in internet, etc. At least the trends that we have seen is, one is democratization of education. And what I mean by that, the student flows are now dispersing across multiple countries. As per the data that we have, in general, a student today applies to close to 7 to 8 universities. And those 7 to 8 universities may be in 2 to 3 different countries. It's not necessary, which used to be the case earlier, that it was 1 to 2 countries. Now it has increased to 2 to 3 and in fact sometimes 4 countries. So that's one clear trend. So, and that has also resulted in emergence of new markets. Right, Germany. We talk about Germany a lot, right? 50,000 Indian students. You talked about China and India. India overtook China, even in Germany. 50,000 students from India and 40,000 from China.
And this year I'm expecting 63 to 65,000.
Yeah. So, and I think so democratization of education is happening. The second trend that I'm also seeing is that, which is more I'm seeing in China, but probably it will come to India as well. Students will also, with the rising cost of education and a focus on ROI, right? What could be those nearshore opportunities? Nearshore, not offshore, but nearshore opportunities. We seldom talk about markets like UAE. Today, I don't know, people know, but more than 220 or 30,000 Indian students are studying in UAE.
That's but those numbers are because there's lots of Indians who are still Indians, but they have gone with their parents and they are studying in their schools. So
I'm talking about higher education. I'm not talking about K-12. I'm not talking about Indian diaspora that is working and studying there. I'm talking about Indian students. The Ministry of Education, the
See,
Home
we
Ministry.
have done the report, so those numbers are
1.3
coming
million
through,
students.
those
Right?
numbers
Just
coming through our report. You know, I mean, I can be very candid. Those numbers coming through our report, but I'm questioning my research there that 1.3 million, yes, it's a real number, yes, but right number going abroad, it's 5,000 students, 500,000 students every year. The new one.
Yeah, total. I'm talking about the cumulative number.
Yeah, but that 220,000 students studying in Dubai. That's
Not
a real
Dubai.
number.
I'm talking about the entire
GCC?
GCC.
Okay.
I'm talking about the entire GCC, right? But what has happened in China is that in China, at least what we are seeing is a lot of students are
Taiwan,
opting towards
Hong Kong,
Taiwan, Singapore, right? Even Malaysia for that matter. Because very interesting in China, 2020, the wage expectation gap for an internationally educated student, the premium was around 20-25%. So if the market was at X, he was getting 1.25x if you have studied outside. Today, that has reversed. That has reversed.
Very interesting.
Right, that wage premium has gone down. Now, as a result, what is happening is students are questioning that does it make sense for me to study abroad versus study nearshore, which is more culturally kind of affirmative for me, lower cost, etc. Right, especially the middle and the bottom of the pyramid.
But what about TNE then? What about TNE? So
that's also TNE.
But one is near shore. But what about TNE coming in India? And also I'll come and I'll caution, because you must be tracking it very, very seriously, because if TNE, probably people don't need ERTs or language efficiency tests. So how are ETS is taking care of that? How are you?
No, so it is not that you don't need an ELT. You still need, because even in Singapore,
the degrees
in an English taught program.
But that's not near shore. What about onshore?
So which I say is so what I call, and that is very close to us, right? So and I'll just give you some comparisons here, Saurabh bhai. So China, to your point, number of international students studying in China is close to 500,000.
Yeah.
Right. What is that number in India?
No, not even 45,000.
Today only, if you look at today's Times of India, you will find that number is now 70,000.
Because before COVID, I was working with Government of India on this.
Yeah, so
especially with Modi ji, creating India as a Asia hub. But over to you.
Yeah. So that number 70,000 was around 50,000, as you rightly said, a couple of years back. That has grown. But if you look at the number of universities and institutions that we have, and the ranking of these universities now in Asia, in the global rankings, India has come a long way in terms of giving quality higher education. And we at ETS, we believe in international student mobility, and some of our exams are for that. It is not to a specific country, this is global. And what we are now working closely with Ministry of Education and is how can we make India a host country from a source country. India is a source country, and how can we make India as a host country with so many IITs, IIMs, and whole host of other research-driven institutions and infrastructure. Right? So, and just to give a context as to how we are thinking about that, annually 450 to 500,000 students globally take GRE. Okay. If you want to go to a Stanford, if you want to go to an MIT, you have to take GRE. Period. There is no two ways about it. Right? And our simple proposition is that an international student will not take a GATE, will not take a CAT. But top one, top two institutions still accepting a GRE from anywhere in the world. What is stopping us from accepting GRE for those international students who may be looking at India or an Indian institution, an IIT and IIM, for a management or a technology program, but just because I cannot give a GATE or I cannot give a CAT is what is stopping them.
No, great. That was a great point. But again, we're talking about TNE. I'll tell you where we are thinking. Because lots of people are questioning us. Oh, TNE is coming in now. People will not go abroad. Your market will, you will be challenged. If not, they're not going abroad. They will not. They will not need accommodation. And my analogy is same. When I come from Meerut to Delhi, I used to come by bus. 40 रुपये में आ जाते थे. फिर भी हम वैशाली में उतरने लगे और वहाँ से हमने लेने लगी बस 10 रुपए की साउथ दिल्ली. फिर हमने ऑटो लेना शुरू करा 100-150 रुपए का. जब हमारी जॉब लगना शुरू हो गई या थर्ड ईयर में आए तो 100-150 रुपए. अब हम ऊबर के नीचे बात ही नहीं करते. तो सिमिलरली आई टेल द सेम एग्जांपल दैट TNE विल इवन एक्सप्लोर दिस मार्केट फर्दर. क्योंकि एक बार हमें अच्छी फैकल्टी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डिग्री मिलना शुरू हो गई और पहला साल यहाँ पे और 2 साल वहाँ, 2 years here, 1 year there. Even this when we say that internationalization of education and when we say that boundaries are blurred, it will explode it further. And need for housing will not only be in international market, even in India market.
Absolutely.
So, what is your take on?
No, I think
ELT?
So I think, and I have so many live examples, Saurabh bhai, in front of me, where and I met one of these students, very bright student, and she came to our office. Right, her name is Inayat Pawar, and she got an offer from Oxford for her MBA. She got an offer from ISB for MBA based upon the GRE score. She chose ISB over Oxford.
I will not.
And this is just one name.
I will not be surprised.
To your point, right? What enabled that? Students are looking for that single criteria.
Government is.
Single criteria, right? That if a University of Oxford said business school can roll out an admission offer to me based upon my profile and my GRE score, I need to give CAT in India. Right? We are talking about students moving on to different shores for studies. Are we creating a level playing field for them? And I understand you need a test which is kind of more standardized in India. Even CAT or for that matter GATE or JEEs are standardized tests, right? How you really filter out. It's a elimination test. It's not a selection test, it's an elimination test. I said to begin with, at least for international students who want to study, who believe in the value of Indian education and Indian higher education, at least give them that opportunity to come through GRE. Before you open it up for Indian students, at least do that to begin with, right? That's number one. Number two, I think this is also a soft power. I always say education is the soft power, right? And a very soft but a very potent economic power. Now think of all the management philosophies that we talk in boardrooms.
Yeah, totally with you. We're still reading, those marketing gurus.
Who are all more American.
Yeah. Their contexts are very,
Right. And now you have imprinted that in the management philosophy, in the way you run organizations, in the way you done business. Right. Now think of it, if more and more of that is an Indian way of doing business.
Which you need to ask.
Which is need
all
of the
Indian CEOs are running the Fortune 500. Continue, please.
So that's what I say, that it is high time to your point, that to begin with, let's internationalize Indian higher education by having more of international students, because that diversity brings a lot of value in the class.
Agree.
Right? Diversity of faculty and diversity of content, right? But where we can work is on the diversity of the student cohort. Today, less than 5%, you pick up any class in any institution, not more than 5% would be international.
Yeah.
And even international would be some of the known markets that we know.
Agree. Done, sir. Done. Let's talk about the last bit, which is rapid fire. Knowing Sachin, country manager for India, subcontinent more. We understood your professional journey. We understood you're sitting on lots of wisdom and insight, and you can talk another 2 hours on ELTs and education. You are very passionate, equally or more passionate than me. I take pride that I'm very passionate, but then I meet you guys, and then I'm like, okay, I need to study more, need to hustle more. So a book, a movie, or a person that has inspired you your leadership journey. You don't need to think.
Malcolm Gladwell.
Who was that? Sorry, I didn't know.
Read him.
So you owe me a book.
Yeah, I'll give it to you.
One piece of advice you would give to students keen on studying abroad.
Research well, go with a long-term vision, and don't take any shortcuts.
If you could implement one change in global education system, what would it be?
More transferability between continents, between countries. You mentioned about pathways, you mentioned about ways of kind of having that exposure within your same program rather than kind of just opting to study 3 years full time, because I think that's important. More collaboration between universities, and corporates on research side. So I think there are a lot of areas which I think we can work to really make this more vibrant.
My team gonna kill me. It used to be it's supposed to be a rapid fire
one word.
But we have so much to share. And I buy all your points. Talking about Sachin, you married?
Yes.
You have kids?
One
kid, or one wife?
One kid from one wife.
One wife. Okay. And tell me more about your family, and tell me more about your kid. Like, has he or she?
He. That's
and he studied from India. He studied from abroad.
No, he's studying in India.
And you will be like
undergrad from India. Then
India.
It's his call.
But why undergrad from India and postgrad from US?
See,
or
so I think it is the environment. It is that hustle. It is that competition that you need to be
prepare
aware
you
of,
for.
right? So I always say that go through that grind. The outcomes may not be what you expect, but that journey will make you a better person.
See, this is why I like you most. Because you give the right. You don't give, your gyan is not gyan. If I would be many of you would be you sitting there, you are coming up with the SATs and ACTs of the world. So for that, as a country manager, you should be talking about undergrad. But you said what you actually mean.
Yeah.
And that's why you are very authentic. And whenever we connect with you, whether as I keep mentioning, whether we don't work, you have never stopped yourself from sharing those insights, from advice, from suggestions which you have learned over the period of time. So thank you, Sachin bhai.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for your precious 1 hour. And this is part 1. Because he's sitting on so much of wisdom and insight, and we have to do part 2. But all depend when Mr. Sachin Jain is free.
Any day for you.
And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.